So 4.5, I want to talk about equivalent fractions. So in equivalent fraction, here the objective is to learn to write equivalent fractions. So we want to learn to write equivalent fractions. So I want to try to learn to write equivalent fractions. So what are equivalent fractions? So equivalent fractions are fractions that represent the same values. So what are equivalent fractions? Are fractions that represent the same value. So equivalent fractions are fractions that represent the same values. So equivalent fractions are different kind of fractions that represent the same value, such as 1 over 2 equals to 2 over 4 equals to 4 over 8. So as we see as a chart, like a pie, 1 over 2 is like half of it. So 4 over 2, it's still the same, dissected by 4, and have 2 of it, and a over 2. A over 4 is we have 8, and then have 4 small parts of it. So they are equivalent fractions using different denominators. So now I find two equivalent fractions for 6 over 8. So 6 over 8 equivalent fractions. I can multiply the same number or divide the same number. So now I multiply the same number, so I get 12 over 16. On the other hand, I can also divide by the same number, such as I divided by 2 and divided by 2. So this is I have 3 over 4. So that's the equivalent fractions for 6 over 8. So I can get 3 over 4 and then 12 over 16. So the answer is 3 over 4 or 12 over 16. Okay, so how do I do when I multiply and divide to find equivalent fractions? So now I want to find the missing number. So I compare the denominator. So 3 times 6 equals to 18. So 2 times 6. So this is 12. So 2 over 3 equals to 12 over 18. So then for question B, now I have 70 to 7, so I divided by 10. So 100 also divided by 10, so this is 10. So the answer is 7 divided by 10. Okay, so what is the simplest form? So the simplest form of the fraction, so is the GCF of the denominator and the numerator is 1. So every fraction has one equivalent fractions that is called the simplest form of the fraction. So every single fraction has one equivalent fraction that is the simplest form. So what entitles the simplest form? So a fraction is in simplest form when the GCF of the numerator and the denominator so it happens when the GCF of the numerator and the denominator is 1. So when the numerator and the denominator, the GCF of numerator and denominator is 1, then that's what we say the simplest form. So how do we write this in the simplest form? So basically, I want to find the GCF. So finding the GCF, I use short division, 9, 12 divided by 3, 3, and 4. So the GCF is 6. So when we divide it by 6, this is 3 over 4. So that's the simplest form. And then now I have 8 and 9. So there is nothing in between. So this is 1, so 8 and 9. So therefore, this is 8 over 9. So the GCF between 8 and 9 is 1. So 8 over 9 is the simplest form already.